Hey everybody, this is Perch. I hate to admit it, but I've tried to be as open with all of you as possible. Obviously, there's some things I don't talk about, but by and large, it is an open book, and I think that confuses some people because what I say is it, and I think that there's these ideas that there's some kind of other secret motive, other things planning behind it. A lot of people speculate, like, why won't Perch go hard on people in the comic industry? It's because he's secretly part of it and he wants to, maintain those relationships and all the rest. Not really. I mean, the thing is, the people who are in comics, they know who I am. They know me. They've met me before, so it's not a surprise to them. I've been a little bit surprised somebody hasn't outed me yet, but it will happen sooner or later. And so I don't care about that. I've said a lot of things here, but to be honest, they're the same things I say in person. The difference between here and in person is that in person you can stare at somebody's face and you can see that they're not like a raving, frothing lunatic, that they're telling you something. You may absolutely disagree with it 100%, but you can't assume these things that we assume when we're online. If you're in a room and you're talking about, say, the vaccine mandate, and you have one pro, one con. And generally speaking, most people can have that conversation in a rational, healthy, above board kind of way. They can do it just, talking through it and discussing the different angles. And it's not a big drama. It's not a big chaos between the two. But if you're online, then suddenly you take the personalization out of it, and people go crazy. People suddenly, they feel perfectly willing to start assigning all kinds of other baggage. It's no longer you're just arguing against another human being. You are arguing against Freddy Krueger. You are arguing against, O.J. Simpson in the middle of murdering his wife. You're arguing against this absolute worst kind of dramatic thing in the world. That's a little tribute to Norm Macdonald there. OJ totally did it, by the way. Anyway, so when I say these things, people are always like, well, when are you going to admit? And it does irritate me. I get very frustrated over times because it's the same kind of bleeding kind of thing. It feels to me like one of those like stuffed toys. You pull the string and it just vomits out the same words over and over. It's like fence setter. It's like, okay, all right. That's how it sounds. It doesn't sound like an intelligent comment. I think anybody who actually listens to the videos understands it's not taking a middle ground. It's saying, here's what I believe, and there you go. I also don't do these videos to entertain people by punking other people out. There are other channels that do that, and that's their brand. That's what they do. I don't, to me, anybody can make fun of the way Dan Slott looks. I mean, come on, just look at it. But it feels like a really low bar joke. It's not one that I have really any interest in making because it doesn't matter to me. I'm assuming that a lot of people listening to the videos and laughing over jokes about how Dan Slott look a lot like Dan Slott, just for what it's worth, for shits and giggles. But the thing that often comes up, and I think if there's one point, and I get this is my tilting at windmills kind of exercise. This is my Don Quixote moment. It's that people assign intelligence and logic and motive to the comic industry that really isn't there the vast majority of the time. I think you can get funny with words. That whole does the comic industry have an agenda stuff. It's one of those places where the word agenda means different things to different people. And in some definitions, I think I agree. In some definitions, I don't. It all depends on how you're defining the words. But time and time again, people get to this place where they really want to believe this Machiavellian, very elaborate, very complex situation of spy thriller level mentality behind the comic industry. And I'm here to, it's not there. It's not me denying the truth. It's just not there. I was listening to one of the videos Zach put out talking Dumb and Dumber. The reason the comic book industry is in shambles is a lot simpler than you think. It is it's right. I think the premise of that video is absolutely right. It is, I mean, again, it's, you can take everything to exaggerations. Is the comic industry in shambles? Well, if you count manga in the comic industry, manga's doing fine. The funny part is if you're counting the executives at Marvel, they're doing fine too. I mean, that's the laughable part is, I mean, is Joe Quesada believe his life's in shambles? No, he's got a really nice paycheck. He's doing great. And it is, yeah, he's fine. I think that it's absolutely true that the problems, the issues are simpler than we think. The activities are just, in many cases, dumb. They're often fueled by ignorance, jealousy, paranoia, or alcohol. Those four cover almost all of the problems, all of the situations that people get themselves into, whether it's the Barcon stuff, whether it's the Warren Ellis stuff, whether it's how people are getting picked for comics, whether it's how people are getting fired off comics. It all tends to stem from that same place. It's very hard, though, to rationalize that. It's very hard to agree with that, because nobody wants to be, quote unquote, defeated by an idiot. Everybody wants to believe that the fight that they're fighting is a noble, tough one, that they're up against a worthy adversary. And if you view comics that way, like it's you versus the comics, then it hurts, it stings. It's not something you want to admit or jump onto, that your adversary is, doesn't know what they're doing. And that is the God honest truth. The majority of the time, it's a combination of those elements, or maybe even like things like disinterest or lack of power. I mean, put it this way. If you're listening to this video right now, there's a good chance, based on the national average, that you make more than many of the FTEs, the full-time employees at comic publishers. There's a very good chance you're earning more in a year. It's not all about money, but just sit with that fact for a moment. There's also a good chance that you've been trained more for your job than a lot of people in comics. There's a lot of editors at the big two. If you look at their LinkedIn, you see that they went from working in a retail shop, usually a comic shop, to working at the FedEx store or Kinko's. That's Alana Smith's, I think, path to Marvel. And this isn't by way of excuse, it's by way of understanding what's going on. When you talk about these comic plots, it's like, hey, what's more likely? This is an Occam's razor kind of thing. Is it that DC had a careful strategic strategy to have Tim Drake and John Kent come out within 3 weeks of each other? Or is it more likely that the editors and the people involved were not communicating, not talking to each other? The comic got done somewhere between the comic going to print and shipping out through the distributor. An artist or a writer on the two separate books said, "Hey, what are you doing? You're doing that? Oh my goodness, we're doing that too." I cannot express how many times I've been at a convention, I've been out to dinner with a group of people, just random people, different companies, and that conversation comes up. Wait, hang on, you're using Kraven the Hunter? Oh my God, I'm using Kraven the Hunter. What are you doing in yours? Oh, he's a psychopathic murderer? Oh my goodness, I'm doing a redemption story right now. Oh, that's weird. And then people eat. Like that's all that happens all the time. And I think some people hear this, and what they misunderstand, that I'm going, and thus it's all okay. Thus it's nothing to get yourself all worked up about. Don't worry about it. It's just stupidity. No big deal. Stupidity bothers me personally. I don't like it. I think that this stuff is pretty bad. I think we should avoid stupidity. I think we should avoid the things that are causing damage to the comic industry. But I will say, if you're trying to correct it, you have to actually not overthink the problem. And a lot of people do. If you're trying not to overcorrect it, but rather just build better, don't overthink it. You got to solve the easy things first. Don't trip over the same dumb, easy mistakes that, the industry you're trying to build away from is also making. There's a lot of crowdfunded books that wind up making the same dumb mistakes that the publishers make. Same bad messaging, same dumb mistake, and they have the same dumb result. Don't overthink it. Get the simple things right, nail it, move on to the next thing, evolve and get harder. But in general, I think you make yourself crazy if you're always looking for this vast kind of detailed answer where, many things come down to underpaid, undertrained, underqualified. That's simple. Somebody posted, I get, Twitter is one of those things where I get really close to just nuking it because I really don't get a lot of value out of it. And then because there's stuff like I post a panel and somebody comes in and is like, you didn't provide enough context to this panel. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, friend. What are you even doing here? It's exhausting. Or I post something and somebody comes in and goes, hey, you're stealing from another channel. I listen to barely any other channels. So stop with that too. But then you get good stuff. So here's somebody who sends something over to me. And this statement I think is interesting because, again, it's simple, but it answers a lot. And it goes like this. This is from 90s Nightwing, who I don't know what is up with that account or anything else, but somebody sent this to me. Comics know what they're doing when they hire good artists for shitty writers because people will gravitate toward pretty art and excuse terrible writing. Meanwhile, some actually good stories will get the ugliest art known to man, and I simply think this should be illegal. I think, that there's truth to that. It's simple. That's kind of the mentality here. If you want to make improvements, solve things, get to a better place, you're gonna have to at least understand the problem is much simpler than you think, and build from there. I did the other video, and I know a couple different channels all commented on it about BarCon and the fact that I find it ridiculous. Maybe it was Zach who said I was too subtle, or not too subtle, but subtle with this comment. I got to now I shouldn't hear things like that because then it gets into my head and I start rethinking how I'm talking. But if it was a subtle point, it shouldn't have been. Yeah, you are out of your mind if in this current industry with these current problems, which are very simple, by the way, and dumb, if you voluntarily go into a BarCon-like situation on your own without like a lawyer or 3 witnesses by your side, and you mingle with some of these people who time and time again prove that they are willing to take shots at invent things, make stuff up or not. I mean, who knows? Again, the worst answer in all this is that you go in alone, you have very little self-control over your drinking, and you, sorry, not sorry, accidentally, not accidentally, put your hand down somebody's shirt because you can't control yourself. Like, that is just the ultimate of stupid. It's dumb for you to go in the first place. It's dumb for you to get drunk without knowing what you're doing. It's dumb for you to be there in a room full of people who are out to get anyone they can. And then it's dumb to do actions which, basically you get what you deserve. That's just dumb. You did that to yourself. I think a lot of things in comics kind of fit that bill. Less conspiracy, more simple mistakes. And that's why you have people who are successful in comics, and there are several who are very successful in comics. What's the common denominator? They don't do stupid things. If you have a close network of friends that's always causing trouble, you should get new friends. Eventually, those friends are going to turn on you. Sorry, I mean, again, simple. That's what's involved. Anyway, thanks for listening. Thanks for all the support for this channel. Of course, as always, back Jim and I Jump. It's a fun little comic out there to a good indie artist who's just trying to do things, not get involved in all this other bullshit. It's always good. Thanks for listening.